Testing microphone. Alright, hello, this is Berrin from Ragic speaking. I know you all are here for the webinar. Again, for our newer users that have just joined Ragic, or if it's your first time joining an office hour webinar, I do not have a set course that I'm going through like other webinars in the office hours. It's mostly Q&A, so you can see that on the right side of your screen on YouTube, you should see a live chat. You need to be logged into YouTube to be able to write anything to me through there, but I will answer your questions and build prototypes according to your questions. So if you see it on the right, then you can see it directly. If you don't see the live chat panel over there, then scroll down a little bit below the video and it will still be on the right side. Again, you'll need to be logged into YouTube to be able to view that. And I do hope we can cover everything that you have in mind. And on the right side here, I have received some questions through email, and I will be answering all of these during the webinar. And please ask me your own questions through the live chat, and we will begin shortly. So Brianne is asking, can the auto-generate number be based on something like the year the information was inputted? Now, what the auto-generate field means is Ragic can generate a number for several records automatically. So what that means is you can either have a timestamp on your record that shows when it was saved or created, if you will. But it does, the timestamp will basically show the save date, or you can have a modification date with a default value and a date field. So it depends on what you want to use it for, but of course the auto-generate number can be based on something that includes the date as well as a serial number. So we can go through that process of creating a auto-generate field first. So let me create a new sheet on my tab over here. Let's call this sales. So let's say if we had a sales sheet for the sales orders, and let's create that. And I have heard complaint sorry, I can't speak today. I have heard some complaints about the webinar being blurry, so if that happens, please let me know through the live chat, because I am looking at the webinar on my other screen and it looks perfectly fine, as in stream quality wise, but I of course cannot be entirely sure about that. So if you can see anything, or more like if you cannot see it clearly, then let me know. All right. Okay, so let's create an auto-generate field that gives a timestamp for the sales order number. So what I really like to do on every single sheet that I create, so that means the form, I like to have an auto-generated number that will clarify that these records are all separate from each other. So that's really a great tip when you are trying to create your database, that every record should be identified by a unique identifier number. So I can see right away Brianne is asking further questions, and I will get to that right away, but let's answer your other question first. Alright, so the auto-generate field, which I selected through the field type over here, has specific formatting types. This is actually created by Java. So it's a Java type of format that if you're familiar with it, you can write. If you're not, you can Google it and change the formatting. So what I do is you can choose any of the formatting options over here. What I really like to do most of the time is choose one of these pre-configured formats and then add a prefix to it. So you can see that there is already one that says PO and then hyphen with a date and timestamp and with a number. So what that means is it will generate a PO as a prefix, and then the current date time with the current date, but it's formatted as 4 digits of year and then 2 digits of month and 2 digits of days, and then it will give 3 digits of numbers that will go consequential. So that means if I were to generate 3 records today, then it will go 1, 2, 3 with today's date. And if I make like 5 records tomorrow, then it will reset the number over here, but the date will be different. It will be tomorrow's date. So basically you can select a template from here and then go with what is closest to you, what you have in mind. But if you want the date only, of course that is possible. You can just delete the rest of these, for example, and only use the date and time over here. Another way to add a date, the date of the information would be if you have a date field on your sheet and you want to add a timestamp, you can add a default value that will be the create date. You can also make a create date time, but keep in mind that in order to see the time in your field, you'll need to have that in the formatting. So if you go back to the basic, if you scroll down over here, you'll see that we have a date and time format. So you can choose the one that has both the date and time. So we can go with this, and right away you'll see on the value field here, it will give you an example on if I generated a record right now, it will give me 2017 May 16th and then 1335. Alright, so I hope that answers your questions from the email. So we've gone through this, and Amy's question is next, but let me read Brianne's question from YouTube Live right now. So they're saying, we create pages for all of our contacts that are individuals, and we track our interactions with each individual. Now we have created an auto-generated ID for each interaction. So they want to have a column that connects 2 interactions. For example, if on Monday a client asked for a refund, we would create an interaction, sure. If on Tuesday the same client called back on their refund, we want to have a column where we can say this interaction is related to auto-generated interaction 7. Basically, we want to create a column that you can select auto-generated interaction IDs. But we only wanted to pre-populate with the interactions with that individual specifically. Sure. So yeah, I do understand your predicament, and we can try creating that actually. So let's see what the best way would be to create that. Let's create a client sheet from scratch and then see what happens with that. So basically we have a basic client sheet, right? Client's number and then client first name, last name, and blah, blah, blah. For example, their email, cat type, and then phone. Okay, so the most basic things that you will have to customize for your own company, right? And then you probably have a subtable for interactions, but if not, then I ideally like having these types of multiple interactions with one client in a subtable. So what a subtable is when we have a regular form like this, then each field within the form has one value, right? When we have a subtable, we can actually put several fields that will be about the same client but with different interactions, okay? So what that means is interaction. So interaction has a unique ID number, and let's say that we actually want to make this a timestamp like your previous question. So let's create an auto-generated field with the date. I call it an interaction ID. So let's make this IN is our prefix, and let's actually have the day as well. So YYMM DD. Okay, let's make this. So interaction with the date, month, and the year, month, and day, and a number. Okay, so that's our ID, and we can add something like via or like topic. So going by your example, they might need a refund, or like sales query, sales, refund, and return. So let's say we have a few topics and we can put that as a selection. So you can have a drop down, or you can have other as well. So we can also have notes that we will add to here manually. So we probably also have the staff member who is dealing with them. So we can choose like staff and make it a select user field, assuming you have all your staff members on Ragic as well. So if they log in and interact with that person, then they probably will need to make a note on who talked with that person. So let's assume that you have several staff members who do sales and returns and whatnot. So customer support type of thing. And the easiest way to do this actually would be if there is multiple staff members who have their own login IDs, then to create the default value with you can default this to the current user who's using it. So whenever someone's filling this, then they don't really have to select themselves. So that's an extra step being automized. Alright, so I also forgot to create a client ID for each client, so I'll just add C and then it will go 00001, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Okay, so this is basically bare bones what I do in creating a kind of notes type of thing with multiple interactions. So let's save that and then test it out and add a new client. So let's say we have a Jane Doe and her email is janedoe@task.com. On the phone, let's just make something up. Okay, and I'm going to save that. So let's say our first interaction with Jane is that she asked us about a certain topic, and you can see that my name is being filled automatically by Ragic over here. So let's say asks when our product XYZ is going to be on sale. And then let's say that the sales is going to be about this query. So the next time, actually, let me not write that. So let's say that I save this and then some other person is going to deal with Jane's question. And then let's say that I actually emailed her saying product XYZ is going on sale. And I want to refer to this interaction, right? So actually, the easiest way to do that is while you are doing data entry, you can just add square brackets and write the interaction number. So this is the easiest way, but I'm gonna touch upon how to automate this as well. So if I wanted to link directly to something, then I can just save that in square brackets, and when you save that, you'll see that it turns interesting. Why didn't it turn into link? I might have done something wrong. Let me quickly check our BB codes. Sorry, we moved this guide. Tagging. So normally this should work in free text fields, and my notes is a free text field right now. But let's try actually creating a new sheet from this subtable so that we can have all customer interactions in one place. So if I create a new sheet from subtable, that means that it's going to take all my fields in the subtable and create a form based on the fields in the subtable and then link back to my client sheet. So basically I'll have a sheet that has all my interactions from all the clients. So we do want to link back with the client's number. Let me create that. Okay, so basically, this should have become a link. Normally, what I would suggest is doing that, but we can actually create another thing regarding your example. So if you had a client where you want to actually filter by that one client, then you can actually add a field. So related to interaction, which can be linked from your actual interaction ID. So I'm linking the interaction ID to here, but we want to filter that by the client's number, right? So right now, as this is, I can probably select an interaction ID, but then I will be able to see all my interactions with all my clients in that listing page that when I select this. So let's go back. Let's go back to the second one and actually make sure that I only filter by the client number. So if I click the interaction numbers gear icon on the right side, you can see that a dynamic filter thing pops up. So we want the client ID to match the client ID on here. While we're selecting an interaction. So it's saying when selecting related to interaction, only show records under this rule. So I want the client's ID to match the client's ID over here. So let's save that and then try it with another client to see if we actually see their interaction as well. So let's go clients and add another one. So let's say this is John Smith. Okay, so let's say that they have a refund processed and then sales processed. Okay, and we ideally want to select an interaction for Jane and not be able to see John's interactions. So let's go to our interaction ID. So you can see that all the things I added in the subtable automatically pop up over here. And while I am selecting the interaction, I can only see Jane's interactions because I added that dynamic filter. Does that make sense, Brian? Brian? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but I hope that makes sense. If I were in John's interaction and I wanted to relate it to the sales that I did with John, then I can just select his. You can see I cannot see Jane's entries over here, so I can just select one of these and then save. So what I do over here, since this interaction is actually linking to the same sheet, if you hover on here, you'll see that interaction. So this is actually a link that can go to that related interaction when you click on this link button over here. So again, Brian, what I just did with the interaction thing is I used link and load, and then I used the dynamic filter to create that type of filtering that you wanted. So I'm just going to send you a documentation file through the live chat over here so that you can read more if you need to. if you have more questions about it, you can always email us on support. Let me just quickly find the documentation on that. There we go. I'm doing this on my other monitor so you guys can't see what I'm doing, but here is a link. There you go. And I hope that was useful. Okay, we're gonna move on to Amy's question over here regarding exporting spreadsheets with images. So, not sure what the use case is here, Amy. If you're here, you can maybe let us know more through the live chat. You will need to be logged into YouTube to do that, but you're welcome, Brian. I will go through the steps on exporting with images, but again, if you have like info about what you're trying to do, then it will be really helpful. But let's say that we had a products list. Actually, that's the easiest to create right now for me. Products. Oh, by the way, the thing I was trying to do with the BB code is tagging. So basically, when you use square brackets to tag anything, it should go to the other entry. So if I wrote in this number in, it actually gives me a link to click on that interaction and then search for it. But I'm not sure why it's not working right now. It might be something that I need to take up on our developers. So usually this had turned into a link, and then when I clicked it, it would search in that sheet for that value. So it was way easier to do. I'm not sure why it's not working right now. Let me try something else actually very quickly, guys, without taking too much of your time. This worked in comments actually. So if I try with the square brackets, no, writing it wrong. Can't type today. 0516 004. So if I wrote it in a comment, yeah, see, it turns into a link. So if I click that, it should search for all the related. Apparently, it searches for all my sheets because this is from clients. But you see what I mean? Like it's about that client, and then it's tagged in that interaction. So I'm not sure why the interaction itself is not coming up. That might also need to be something regarding our search, but yeah, tagging should have worked over here as well. So that's something I'm gonna bring up to our developers to have a look at. That was my first point while trying to tackle this problem. But I think in your use case, it's going to be more useful to just use the dynamic filter. All right, going back to Amy's question, I will create a product sheet over here, and let's have a product ID with the Autogenerate field again. I swear this is not going to take long. So product name and image. So we're going to also have the price and whatnot, right? So let me create a product with green shirt. I actually have green shirts from another webinar, a previous webinar. So I'll create a green shirt and then a yellow shirt. Over here. Okay. So we have two products with my green and yellow shirts. And now if we wanted to export the spreadsheet with images, when you export it directly as an Excel file, I don't think you can export the image anymore. Let's see. Yeah, it will give you the image link instead. So I think her point of this question was to see the images itself inside the Excel file. And that is possible. However, you will need to create a template for that. So basically what you'll need to do is to open an Excel file with a blank workbook, and then you will need to create a template that shows, I think this is only possible for single entries, by the way. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you can create a web embed, sorry, what's it called again? Mail merge template, sorry. Mail merge template where you create the product ID, and you'll need to use the exact same spelling that you're using inside Ragic. So here you can see I'm writing product ID. If I wrote product ID like this, tiny, it would not work. Let me zoom into this a little bit because I know you guys are having trouble seeing. There we go. So you can see that this would be wrong because it's not the exact same spelling with this. What I'm doing in mail merge is case sensitive. So I'll need to write product ID inside these two brackets. So the brackets, this is the smaller than sign. I don't know what else it's called. And this is the larger than sign. And it kind of makes a little bracket type thing when I'm writing the names of my fields. So again, this is product case sensitive, and if I had written product name like this, then my mail merge wouldn't work properly. So let's save this. Let me just save this in my webinar files. Let's say products images. So now that's saved, I can actually go back to my Ragic database and go tools and mail merge. So here on the mail merge, we just created the template. So let's upload that template that we just created over here. So I selected that file and let me call this template catalog because why not? And upload. So if I wanted to mail merge my entries with the template I just created, then I would just click mail merge Word or Excel, and that will download my catalog inside. And then when I open it, my fields will actually have all the values. So you can actually write anything over here as well. The images download as their exact size, so that's not very if that's not really a problem for you, then that's great. But if you do have a problem with that, then you'll need to edit the images before you upload it onto Ragic. So basically, there you go. I mean, you can mail merges basically for more than one entry. So usually it's best to have all of your entries, if you want, in a zip file. When you do the mail merge through your listing page, it will only download filtered records. And well, yeah, I can't really make sure why you want to do this. So if you want more info, if you're there, Amy, please write to us on regarding your use case, and we can talk more about it. Okay, Amy's also asking the ability to link to Dropbox files. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire step-by-step process for that, but basically for users who do not know about this, we do have a Dropbox integration, and it's through the template store over here, and through the Start tab. So it's the first on Start, install templates, and then the first over there called Office Manager. And if you scroll down, the fifth one would be Dropbox Document Management. Now, what that does is this grabs your files that you store in Dropbox and creates a record for each of those files. So the files, by the way, cannot be in your root folder, which means your main Dropbox folder. It needs to be inside a folder inside your main Dropbox. So basically like a folder that you open on your computer should be inside Dropbox as well. It doesn't matter if all your files are in the same folder or if the folder is actually a parent folder of many little folders that have many little files in it. It will basically show all depending on what you're doing. And well, what the Dropbox thing does is it basically just shows all the files, and it gives you more options to share. And you can actually search through your files using keywords within Ragic, which you cannot do in Dropbox, by the way. For example, if a Word file had a keyword in it that you were searching for in Ragic, it will show which files have that keyword. So I hope that makes sense. And well, you can do anything you do on Ragic for that sheet. You can add more fields, you can comment, and then you can, share those files and fine tune what you're sharing. You can embed that entire sheet if you want, and basically use history, approval, and whatnot. All the features on Ragic will be available on that sheet as well, provided you don't really mess with the original fields that Ragic generates in this template. So the setup is pretty straightforward. I did this in the last webinar for the people who were not here. Basically, you click setup from the template setup thing, and then you decide on who you're going to share with. Let's say internal, and then the access rate. You can change all of these later. You can just go through the steps through this wizard and then link your Dropbox. Once you click this, then it will ask you which folder you're gonna set up with in Dropbox, and that will go through the sign-in and approve that Ragic wants to connect with Dropbox, and then it will connect the folder to your Ragic sheet, and then it will create a new sheet that will be in Ragic with all your files as a separate record. So I hope that wasn't too fast, but that's the basic process on setting up. Alright, next question is the ability to have groups permissions so that you can share the database with their offices in other countries but have limited visibility to certain fields and ownership rights. So this is a very, very long topic. I have talked about this in one of our previous webinars. If you do have questions about this after watching the webinar, I can answer all of them. But for users who are watching, basically you can have different user groups and set permissions according to different user groups, and users can actually be in several different user groups if you want. If you grant different permissions for all your user groups by sheet, then you can make sure that you can decide on which users are in different user groups, and then the most rights they have with a user group will be their right for that sheet. So where you configure user rights is through form settings in the design mode in access rights. So you can see that Ragic has a few default user groups that are in place. Everyone is anyone off the internet. I really like to remind this to everyone because some people don't know about it. Basically, if you want to keep your data confidential, then you should assign this no rights. If you're creating surveys that can be public, then you can create them as a survey user where they can create their own entries. If you are making a public database where anyone can view the data, then it's possibly going to be viewer. And you can make this type of arrangement for different user groups and add people on different user groups through your account setup. Now, under Start tab, you'll see your account setup, and through there you'll see all your users. So this is me as a single user on this database because it's a demo. But basically, you can see over here on Ragic groups, I can be under several different groups if I want to. If you want to add your own categories, like these are all default, the HR, IT management, sales, accounting, are all created by Ragic because they make sense to most of the companies. If they don't make sense to you, then you can create your own user groups over here on groups. Still in the account setup, by the way, through Start. and you can create new records over here. So the system defaults are the everyone, user, and external user over here, and system administrator. So do not modify those, but you can modify IT, sales, accounting, and HR and management if you want to. You can modify them, or you can create new ones through new. It's just like creating a new record on Ragic. And we also have the access rates table over here where you can see all of your sheets and all of your user groups. So basically, this is a good way to ensure what each user sees instead of configuring them through the access rates in your sheet one by one. So this is kind of a global access rate thing. And this link through the access rights global table is pretty useful in a sense where it goes to a user guide and it will show you what each setting does and if you're able to view or create or modify records if you have different access rights. Another point I want to make here is you can actually assign records to users, and it gives people extra access rights if, for example, the user, let's say, does not have access to a sheet, but if you assign a record by selecting their username and making them the entry manager, then they can see that entry even if they don't have access to the sheet. Okay, so I'll send both of these documentation files through our live chat over here. And if you have like extra questions about the user access rights or have a use case on how to configure this or that, you can always email support@ragic.com and we will gladly point you to the right direction. Everyone's case is different, and sometimes we do get very interesting questions on what you're trying to do, and we can accommodate requests if it makes sense to have it for other users. So I do hope these are helpful for you guys. And let's see. So, by the way, I can see people joining and leaving the webinar. And if you're new here, I'm just answering questions that we just got through the live chat and as well as the ones I received through email on the right side. So I just answered the one about access rates, and I hope that helps. Terrence is asking, they were wondering if you could cover on the webinar how to display the search results from embedded query on a separate web page. So, Terrence, I'm not sure if you're here, but I'm not really sure what you're trying to do. So, there is a search bar embed, and there is a listing page embed, and these don't really work together that well. And I've actually put in a ticket earlier this week because someone else was asking about this, because I know this is a classical thing that people create on their database forms elsewhere, and I do want to be able to accommodate having both the search bar and the listing page entries. So I'll show you what I mean, guys. Our web embed is basically for newer users. You can actually embed your database, especially if it's public. You can embed the entire listing page you have and make it public. Or you can embed a form where people can enter their data inside the form, and then when they save it, it will automatically be on your database. So there are a few other embedding types. What Terrence is asking here is about searching. So displaying the search results. So when you embed the database search, it basically embeds the top bar that you have over here on your database for a sheet, I think, over here into your wherever you're doing that. So if I were to embed this through tools, share, embed the sheet, if I click this and it gives me like the database search option, basically it will give me this search box. And then if I were to test it out, actually, let's test this out by, oh, I can't really. test that out by doing that. Anyway, let's go do that all over again. So let's search for John because we just added that as a sales record. And if I clicked John's entry, then I'll see the record for John. If there were several Johns, I think I will be able to see several Johns inside the listing page over here. So that's what you can embed. He's saying if they do a search using that, the results will show up on a separate web page. So I'm assuming this opens up on a separate web page. Oh, they're saying how to display the search results. I don't think you can open it on a separate web page as of now. For the embedded version, we also have a raw embed that you can possibly use, but that doesn't have the search bar. It has the sidebar search. So I actually petitioned to have that as well earlier this week. But let me show you very quickly how the database query works. So let's say we want to search from email, first name or last name, and phone number, which is the classic retail, right? So let's say next, and then this layout you can change if you want to. I usually use the table layout. The album is better for if you have a product catalog or whatnot. The block is better for text entries that have a lot of info. But basically, this is what you can use for searches. So this is how I test this out. Why doesn't it show my fields that I actually created? Let's try again. It did not. So let's select all of these. Next, next. Oh, it's not showing my default query fields. Interesting. Let's refresh this entire thing. Did I need to save that, I wonder? Oh, I needed to save by pressing OK. I think we will need to clarify that in our guide. Let's say next, and I think it will work this time. So the embed looks like this. So if a customer were to give me their first name and last name, then it will show all the matches. And then I can click their own entry and then see all their details. So that's the database query embed. I am pretty sure you cannot have this separately for the search results to show up differently. I think this is a feature request that you can put in. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Terrence A. Oh, you're here. Hi. So basically, they're saying on my website, I have embedded database search on my main page. I would like the results when someone searches to show up on a separate web page. Yeah, that does make sense, Terrence, but we don't have that. I think that it only shows up on the same page, but they can go back to where they were and back to the query. Another thing you can use for the query is using the raw embed. So that's another embed type, but it still opens on the same page, I think. This looks prettier, and it kind of looks like the one on your Ragic database. So it's not for creating a new entry. Let's say we want to display the search sidebar and then show the top form buttons. Yeah, so basically this is what someone will see, basically, and if they're not a Ragic user, then what they will see, and if your database is public, will not include these buttons if you turn them off. I hope that answers your question. I think you can put in a feature request with our support team regarding that. I think if you clarify what you're going to use that for, then they might take your case and actually create that for you. But I cannot give any guarantees. I'm not in the development team, and I usually do support and content creation. So I really can't answer what technical things that will include. Okay, anyone else have any questions? I think I replied all the questions that were emailed to me earlier. Anything needing any clarification, you can also ask me. We have around 15 minutes left. If you're struggling to create something, you can give me your use case through the live chat, and then we can try recreating something through the demo account over here. And for people who have just joined, the live chat is on the right side of your screen. If you cannot see it, you can scroll down a little bit and it will be below the video. Anyone? Terrence is asking, another quick question. Can you change the look and feel of the search bar? I do not think so. If you mean the search bar over here on Ragic, then no. You do have some customization options if you're using a professional account or a port. Mine is currently a professional demo. No, you cannot really customize the text font or size of search bar or anything else. It's just the default one. The white labeling options for your account will only be the logo, the banner over here, which I actually added a customized banner for. You can customize search bar on the embedded file. No, I don't think so. Those are pretty default HTML type of things. Unfortunately, no. The only white label options are, well, okay, for the embed, only the raw embed will follow what your design looks like on Ragic. The other embed options will all display some bare bones HTML type of embedding. So if you have like customization, for example, if you have like a banner that you add through to your form, then it will show up on the raw embed, but nothing else will show up. And I really don't think the search bar is customizable. If you want to create your own HTML template that you will display Ragic data in, you can use our HTTP API. For that, I think a lot of people like to create their own HTML version of the form or the listing page or whatnot, and pull data from Ragic to display in there. So you can check out our API options. I'll send you our API documentation. This requires coding and programming knowledge, and I'm not really the right person to talk to about this, but you can have a look. And if you have any questions, you can always email our support team, and they will redirect your question, if it's a technical question, to a developer in our team. So it's always the same email address. It's support@ragic.com. If you want customization, I think that's the best route to use the API. Jay Roden is asking, when linking and loading from another sheet and the other sheet uses an auto increment number, is there any way to store another field instead of the auto increment number? The short answer would be yes, I guess. I'm reading your question again, but would you like to clarify what you mean? Like, of course, you can link and load to another sheet, and the other sheet can have its own fields that can contain an auto generation number. What do you want to store in another field? Yeah, if you clarify that, that would be great because I don't really understand. Um, or maybe give me an example or use case that we can go with. So Jay Roden's question is very important. Actually, you can do that. I mean, I know in most of our examples doing link and load, we use the ID number as the linked field. So what I mean by that is if I had my products on the sales orders, I would link the product ID first, and then the name, and then all the price and whatnot information after that. So yeah, I mean, you can actually link the product name if you wanted to, but something I always say about using the ID field is, I mean, you don't really have to have it auto-generated, but it needs to be different than all the other fields. So I don't actually have to use a product ID here. I can use something that makes sense for my company. So some retail places, most retail places would use an SKU number um, instead of an auto-generated number or a barcode or something else. So what issues that causes is some products might have the same barcode and have different SKU numbers, or some products might have the same SKU number while they are actually different sizes or colors. So we want to make sure that the product is unique that we're linking here. So if it makes sense to you and you're sure that the ID number, whatever you're using to link, is unique to that entry, then you can use another field. For example, if I had all different product names for everything, then I would definitely link product name instead of product ID, because these are all gibberish, like P1, P2 don't mean anything. But the product name, or if I'm sure that I don't have like dozens of products that are all different but are all named yellow shirt, then I would definitely link the product name if they were all different. So this is more of a measure to make sure that all my records are unique. So I really like using the auto generate in that sense because, for example, I like giving this example. If I had clients, I might have several Jane Does with the same first name and last name, but they might be different individuals living in different states. Um, a lot of places like to keep their customer records by their phone number, but sometimes they just assume everyone has a different phone number, and that maybe Jack and Jill, a married couple, might be giving their home phone number instead of their own cell numbers, and they share the same phone number. So now you got, if you are using your phone number as the unique ID and linking the phone number to elsewhere, then you can't make sure if you're selecting the correct client, right? So it basically helps me prevent user error in this case. If you have some ID number that makes sense to you, um, then by all means you can use that and not generate an auto-generated number in Ragic. This is just for automation and then making sure that my users don't need to come up with something for each record. Yeah, no problem, and I hope that made sense. I think I should do a whole tutorial video talking about that sometime. Another question is, what would cause an internal user that has admin rights to a sheet not to be able to see the sheet when logging in? I'm not sure. You probably might need to check your user settings and see if there is anything wrong with that, or perhaps that user did not, perhaps that user might have not cleared their cache or something. If you think there's an error with the user access rights, then you should definitely email our support team, because without looking at it, I cannot really say something that might be useful for your case. The best cases I've seen so far about user access rights not working properly is sometimes they are assigned to a few different groups, or that they did not log out and log in before testing their new user rights. So again, that would be something that our support team might look into. So if you email support@ragic.com, we'll have a look and see what's going on with your access rights. I'll just write that down again, support@ragic.com. And I hope that was helpful. Anyone else have any questions? Right, again, it might not be about the cache as well. Like, I'm not really sure. That's something you might want to look into. And well, if it's something on our side, we can fix that pretty easily if you give us more details via email saying which user it is, what user group they were in before, and then what they're supposed to see right now, and then we can have a look at the specifics. All right, anyone else have any questions? Anyone? No? All right. Thank you all for joining today. I really appreciate all the questions, and it gives us really a lot of feedback. And interacting with users is one of our greatest things that we do, and we always want to improve our product according to your feedback. If you have any feedback, sure. Jay Roden is asking one final question. Sure. By the way, I'll just clarify. Next Thursday, we're gonna have another webinar regarding data cleanup and preventing duplicates in Ragic. So I will go through some of the steps that I do for data cleanup when you are importing your data, and before importing your data, and other points you need to take care of. So I think that's going to be useful for non-Ragic users as well. If you think of anyone that might need to know this type of info, you can invite them over as well. It doesn't really have to be a Ragic user or related to Ragic. It will be mostly about data cleanup on Excel and some tips and tricks. Jay Roden is writing their question in the meantime. Jay Roden is asking, when setting up account for external users, can the email be changed? We have users within the organization who would actually be considered external users but have the same domain email. So the thing we have with external users is you cannot, it's automatically rejecting all the users that have your domain address. Of course, you can add them with another email address that they use privately, but basically what external users cannot do is editing your entries. So if you're sure that they fit that criteria and need to have external user rights only, then of course you can add them as external users with their private email. You cannot change email addresses of people you add, either as internal or external users over here. So basically, whenever you add a new user, the email is their unique ID for that user. So you cannot edit the email address afterwards. So if I wanted to edit this afterwards with my private email, I better not do that because I'm the sysadmin, but it probably won't let me. But I mean, if you want to transfer someone's user rights after changing their email, you can just add a new user with their private email. So that should work in external users as well. I did not enable them in this account, but in internal users, when you add a new email address, you can suspend the old user, and then on the new user you can no, on the old user you can say entry owner transfer and transfer all their assigned entries and whatnot. So I'm not really clear if this works on external users as well, but this is how it works in internal users, where you can transfer all the related entries and notifications and whatnot to a new user. Yeah, the easiest method would be to add a new user and then transfer. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, we don't really regulate what's being added as external users. We only check to see if it's the same domain. It will just block the same domain that you registered with. Yeah, so you can just add new external users in your account and then use them. We don't really mind that, provided you're using it fairly. Okay, I hope that helped answer your question, and we're out of time. If you have any further questions about that, just email us. You can email me separately as well. It's berrin@ragic.com. I actually reply faster through support@ragic.com, so emailing that is better. Right, I am hosting another webinar next week. It's about data cleanup and preventing duplicates, and well, if you guys want to join that, you can. It's on the 25th. It's a Thursday next week, and then if you have any further questions regarding topics we talked about today, just email me directly. Alright, thank you all so much for joining, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you all again. Bye.